Hello everyone, Statname here. We continue reviewing top players from different stakes, and today, to choose a hero for today's episode, I opened top player section on statname.net. In terms of time period, I chose past 12 month right here, then 888 Poker, No Limit Holdem, and stakes from NL50 to NL200. And then I just sorted the players by the amount of money they won. Well, just total amount of winnings for the past 12 months. And here is our hero for today. This guy, Equalizer 22. Let's go straight to his stats. A very decent graph we see here with a very decent, very good red line, which is close to zero. I mean, it's still a little bit below zero, but still a very decent line, a very good balance between red and blue lines, in my opinion. His win rate is not record-breaking comparing to the guys we went over in the previous episodes. His win rate is 4.6 BBs per 100. But even with not the highest win rate among different players on those stakes, he still managed to win the most money over the past 12 months. And he achieved that by playing a lot of hands. He puts a huge volume in. Yeah, for the past year, he played over 600k hands. And if we go month by month, I'd say he plays above 50k hands per month. This is his average, I'd say. His main stakes are NL100 and NL200 with a 8.7 big blinds per 100 win rate on NL100 and 1.6 on NL200. And as always, let's go over 3 hands from this guy. First one, pocket fours on the small blind, button opens and we call. Well, not a very standard call, let's say. Many players prefer playing 3-bet or fold on the small blind, including me. This way I simplify my strategy. But in this case, we have a target player on the big blind. The guy, the whole hand actually revolves around. And we want to check this guy's stats, so let's do it. Of course, I already did that. It's a recreational player, 52-23. I'd say it's an average fishy player. He loses enough money for us to want to be involved in hands with him. So yeah, against this guy on the big blind, this is definitely a good call with pocket fours. Okay, we hit a top set on the flop. We can actually don't bet here, but hero decides to check instead, which is also totally fine. And a 3 on the turn. Well, now our hand is pretty much invulnerable. We have this board locked in. We are not afraid of any flush draws, straight draws and gut shots, so we can comfortably check again, although I wouldn't check here every time. There are guys against whom I would prefer betting, and there are guys against whom I would prefer checking. Then a recreational player bets, button calls, and we put a big raise in. It is totally reasonable to raise big with a strong hand because we want to increase the side of the pot against a recreational player. We want to make as much money as possible against him, and he raises eventually, which is an indicator of a very good hand, or at least a good hand. Button folds and hero pretty much clicks back. The idea is to keep as many hands in hero's range as possible, just to get more value here and then get the rest of the stacks in on the river. Villain calls another 3 on the river, and of course we have to shove the rest of our stack here. This was the idea. Villain calls and shows pocket nines. He has a full house, yes, but our full house is stronger, and for villain apparently pocket nines is a very good hand here. Okay, next hand, we have pocket sixes on the cutoff. We open, we get a call, we get a squeeze, and a call of the squeeze. This hand also revolves against this guy on the big blind. It's a recreational player, and I already checked his stats. You can see in the background. I've opened his page already. He plays a 64-31, a really good opponent to have at your table, huge lose rate, huge aggression frequencies, and a big gap between one when soft flop and one money at showdown. Well, those aggressive recreational players, guys like him, usually lose more money than your typical passive recreational players with the same VPIP. And yeah, this guy is a great opponent to widen up our calling range in this situation. I mean, pocket sixes against him is a decent call, but against, if he, let's say he just folded pre-flop, and we have a squeeze on the small blind, in this case, pocket sixes is a fold for me. We have a pretty innocuous board, 5-5-4 rainbow. Everyone checks, and hero decides to bet small, around a quarter of the pot, and of course he bets for protection. Our friend on the big blind here has a really wide range. A regular on the small blind has a lot of overcards in his checking range on the flop, and this is what we are trying to protect against. Reg folds, and we are heads up against our guy. 4 comes on the turn, and he donks. Well, hero responds with a shove, because he realizes that there are a lot of overcards in his donk betting range. We are comfortably ahead against all of those hands. He also has a lot of ace highs, I believe. And yeah, it is also important that he is very aggressive. His aggression frequency is huge, as I said, and the gap between 1-1 soft flop and 1 at showdown is also huge. Against a passive opponent, this would definitely be minus EV, but against this guy, it's a good shove. He called and showed ace 7 of clubs, so he had an ace high with the nut flush draw on the turn. And the final hand for today. We have queen deuce suited on the small blind, and the theme of this hand is regulars, even top regulars, also make mistakes. So let's see what happened here. Well, first of all, this hand is not a part of a standard 3-betting range. I mean, in GTO solutions, hands like this, we just fold. But nevertheless, it's a good hand to use to widen our 3-betting range if we want to exploit some leaks in the villain's strategy. Like if he folds too much against a 3-bet, for example. By the way, let's take a look at his stats. Oh, here we have a good regular with a decent, really good graph, actually, with a decent win rate, who is also quite aggressive, and this is not a target to widen our 3-betting range against. Well, for now, I don't see anything we would like to exploit here. I don't see any obvious leaks. Let's see how he plays against the 3-bet. Well, okay, he actually opens a lot on the button, 51%, and with that he folds a lot to a 3-bet, 68%. Well, he's not a huge folder to a 3-bet, but he folds a lot still, and we can justify this 3-bet with queen deuce suited, but what happened next is what I really dislike here. We face a 4-bet. And the idea of our bluff 3-bet with a hand like queen deuce suited is that if we face a 4-bet, we just fold. But in this case, for some reason, a hero decided to shove. Could this play be reasonable? In some cases, of course it can. If our opponent, for example, is a guy who clearly overfolds against a shove, against a 5-bet shove, then it's totally okay. And thankfully we have stats, so let's see. His fold to 5-bet is 45%. Well, 100 big blinds deep, we want to widen our shoving range if opponent folds 50% and more against a 5-bet shove. For our pocket pairs, we want him to fold 50% and then we shove those. For our suited ace-x combos, we want him to fold more than 50%. like 55% preferably or more. But here we have a really weak hand, weak for a 5-bet shoving hand. And if we want to shove this, well, it basically means that we want to shove any 2. And we can shove any 2 when our opponent folds to a 5-bet shove, like 65% and more. And here our fold equity is clearly not enough to shove this hand. And in my opinion, it's a blunder. It's a big mistake from our hero. Unfortunately for us, in this case, villain calls, and he shows ace-queen offsuit, which is a, well, let's say, a pretty light call on his part. Well, it is highly probable that those guy has had some weird or some specific dynamics between them, and of course, in this case, you can adjust and readjust and so on, but I don't know any of that, and I only analyze spots according to stats. And stats say that this 5-bet is clearly a bad one. This is it for today. I hope it was interesting. Thank you very much for watching and have a nice day.